Hi, I'm Shailna and I'm 33 years old. I live in Goa and you're sitting in my workshop right now. I have been doing this for the past 4 years now, on and off, in a way that I've always had a job on the side, and earlier the job used to be primary, where I used to do woodworking only during the weekends, but recently I don't know, thanks to COVID maybe, that I'm getting more time to spend in the workshop. I am married to an artist. He also enjoys woodworking, and sometimes he comes, helps me here, or otherwise he's tinkering with his own things. And I'm a parent to 3 cats. I'm saying this because it's very important to my journey. So yeah, they're going to come up again. So yeah, that's about me. So honestly, it could have been anything and not woodworking. It could have been metal fabrication. It could have been working with glass. It could have been thread, anything, paper. Because I've always enjoyed working with my hands. Like as a kid, craft was my favorite subject. I used to do my brother's craft homework as well. I used to ask him, what is your homework? I want to do this. Wood happened almost, I would say, accidentally. I told you, right, I have cats, and my cats don't get along too well. So I had this old plywood lying at home, and there's this specific furniture for pets, and I had read a lot about it. It's called cat trees, where it's basically something that has levels, that has to reach a certain height, because cats like to perch on top of things, and it needs to be structurally stable because cats jump here and there. So I made this structure for them, thinking that they'll like to enjoy it together, sit together and all of that. That didn't work out, but this thing did, and I posted this for other people to see on a group in Delhi which is called Fans of Cats, and listen, see, I made this for my cats, and people were just overjoyed. They're like, wow, amazing work, and I was just really happy. I'm like, okay, people like it. And suddenly, 2-3 days later, somebody tells me, can you make one for me? I wanted to sort of make myself a better woodworker than a better business person. That thing was doing well. I was selling a lot of trees, whatever I could make with my weekend time, but it was still doing well. And but then I'm like, okay, enough of cat trees. Now I need to do something else. I also made some photography props for someone. So I started with this small scale, and now I made some people furniture as well, like actual bed and tables and chairs and stuff like that, which I enjoyed a lot. So yeah, I think that's where it started. I haven't learnt from anyone as I would say, as a trainee, as an apprentice sort of a thing. I do want to, but I haven't had the opportunity so far, simply because I also have work. I still have a job that I'm doing, and I just cannot leave my household and stuff and learn to apprentice with someone. At the same time, I have had a lot of people who have helped me in this journey. So many YouTubers that I look up to. I regularly watch some videos. If I need help on hand tools and how to set things up, I look at Paul Sellers, and there are some of these I like. 3x3 Custom, I don't know, Tamar, I really like her video. Her jigs are really good. So these guys help me. And then there's the Indian woodworkers community, starting with Indranil. I came across his blog the first, and I had so many questions at that time, and from there I learned about Abid. And Indranil had interviewed Abid and mentioned that here is a woodworker in Gurgaon who teaches. I was in Delhi at that time, and I went to Abid. I wrote him an email, very passionate email. I wasn't even expecting a reply from him, but then he said, yeah, sure, why not, come home. He showed me his workshop, very fascinating stuff. I went, learned from him like a class on 2 weekends. So yeah, the community has been really helpful, including Abid. Then I met you. Then I met Avi, who's by far has been the most, I would say, a person who helps me out in whatever problem I'm stuck in, whether it's finishes or it's construction or joinery and things like that. So yeah, that's where it started, and this is what I'm doing. I would really, if time allows and if I have the space in the right place, I would love to go and apprentice with Kenji in Auroville. I really love Mayank's work, and and it's his own work, but he trained with Kenji. I'm not saying I'm going to become like Mayank if I train with Kenji, but I'm sure the Japanese man has something to really teach me, and I want to stay for a long duration. I don't want to just go apprentice 2 months and all of that. That is not how you learn woodwork. I want to work on a couple of projects, maybe stay for a year and a half. Auroville is a nice place. So yeah, all of that. So because I have done my graduation in architecture, I wouldn't say some aspects of it inspire me, but they do help me because of a training in actually putting things together, putting materials together. It really helps me when I'm, say, discussing things with my client, because when you have a piece of furniture which is non-contextual, it can exist anywhere, it's easier to plan it. But I get an edge over my clients, mainly because I can visualize the space as a whole and I can give them design inputs. I can actually also plan my projects well, because for any project, and you would agree with me that planning your project well is the first very important part of it. What steps follows what, how do you visualize it, how does it all come together, what joineries would work best in this, if something shakes, how do you prevent that? And we've sort of learned this in a bigger scale in buildings, and those aspects of things, even softer aspects like what kind of upholstery would work well with something, because you have that knowledge of design, you understand what patterns to mix, what colors to go well together, what kind of finish would look good. Should this be raw finished, or should this be painted, or should this be upholstered, things like that. And that sort of really, I think if I had not done architecture, I would have been a woodworker, but a different kind of woodworker. But this certainly enhances my practice as a woodworker, is something, yeah, I would say. What do I enjoy most? There's not one thing. There are 2-3 different things. One of them especially is the fact that wood exists everywhere around us. From little spoon to a cabinet is your range where you can explore wood. It's ridiculous how much you can do with wood. You can do art with wood. You can do little things with wood. You can make little storage. You can make a chair. You can make there's just the applicability of wood is so vast. And there is so much more to learn and explore. When I started woodworking, I'm like, I have seen carpenters. Being an architect, I've seen people, mistris work on site, and I've seen mostly big things being made. But then as and when you start doing it yourself, you've seen these guys using most basic tools like chisels and a plane and a circular saw, maybe a hand saw, and 4-5 tools se they'll make like something. And then you see the whole world of YouTube, where people are doing this as for a living, for just because they're interested in it, and things like jigs and so many different tools. You can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's a vast ocean, like there's just so much to explore. So even I've done that in my practice as well. I started with joining 2 things with just a screw. Then I'm like, nahi, shabby hai, acha nahi hai. Then I had knowledge of about joineries because of architecture, like what's a butt, what's a lap. I'm like, okay, let me try just doing glue joineries. Then it's maybe different types, mortise tenon hai, आपका dovetail hai, and you pick a topic and there is so much in there. Then you skip to another topic and there's so much in there. So just the fact that this is like a never-ending exploration is something I love about it, and it's seen in my practice also. And right now I am doing smaller objects, I'm doing little crafty objects, I'm doing art in wood, I'm exploring how paint finishes and polish and distressing and different kind of things would work on wood. So I think that's what I love the most, is just keep going and kuch naya milega. I don't look at machines as something that I should not be. I do good research before buying any machine. I buy good brands. So when I'm putting money into something, I know that this is going to last me, because it's like if you're buying a big machine, you'll buy 2 in a lifetime. You're not going to buy so many, right? So I'm very prudent when I do my research. I ask people around, I find the right dealer who's giving me the best deal, and then I go and buy a machine. But I don't look at machines as something that because I want to do good work. It just comes as it happens, I work on something, I'm like, this, I'm not getting the right finish with this, what could give me that? I try different things, that jugaad, what you call, to give me that kind of finish. If it doesn't happen, I'm like, okay, if I can afford this machine, I should buy it. Then saving also happens, when you have like, okay, I want a sander, because I've been sanding with hand and I'm getting a lot of work, but I'm not able to fulfill them in time because I don't have the right tool. Why not just invest in it so that you can, it's just common sense and prudent thinking, I would say. It is not a thing that happened all of a sudden one day, but as and when I needed something, I'm like, okay. And I don't have any extra clutter also in my workshop. I buy what I need. Everything I have, I use it. So I began, like I said, I began with using waste material and whatever was lying at home. Once that happened, because I did not have knowledge of properties of wood and cost and other things like that, where to source them, the easiest for me to source was pallet wood, because I had seen in Delhi these being sold on the street itself, and they looked fairly fine for the kind of work I wanted to do at that time, and they were sold by weight. They were easy to bring home. So it just happened out of necessity that I started using pallet wood. I also did a lot of upcycling using pallet wood. I made myself a center table. I made a lot of small, like I said, when I was making photography props, the guy I was making this for liked that kind of rustic finish, and that's what he needed. So there was no point in using fresh teak wood or some expensive wood like that for it. So whatever the project demands, that's how I use the wood. I started using a lot of pine because it was easy to source, it was cheaper. At the same time, it wouldn't give me a good sturdy thing if I wanted to make a table. So then accordingly I switched to, say when I worked on the B&B project, the larger project, the studio apartment, I used acacia for that, because the project demanded that it needs to be good furniture that lasts for at least 10-12 years before the owners decide to scrap it. It is going to be rough used by guests who are staying in a B&B. So I got an opportunity to use acacia. Then I've used teak in smaller areas, and yeah, that's about it. my process of finishing and how I decide upon finishes comes from the need of that project. You know, if it's in a certain geography, then even if people say that, you know, इसके ऊपर एक पतला कोट आप इसका मार के रख दो, स्टेन का कर दो और ऊपर PU कर दो. No, in Goa those things won't work. You need to literally seal that wood really well, apply several coats of linseed oil or sanding sealer or whatever you're using to fill it. Then you can't wax it, because wax se to pani matlab it's not as repellent as maybe a lacquer or a varnish or, you know, shellac would be. So basically I am not fixated on how I finish something. It depends on the project I'm doing, it depends on the wood I'm using, and it also depends on what the client wants to do, you know, at the end of it. What do they want to achieve out of this furniture? What do I want to achieve within that space from this furniture? So yeah, it's quite a lot of things that I think about. I love using Duco because of the clean finish that it gives. And recently I've also started enjoying chalk paint. I know it's a very rudimentary finish, you don't need any expertise in doing it, but just the fact that it's so simple, that you don't need to be an expert painter or a woodworker to do it, is what I enjoy about it the most, you know. And the kind of possibilities that you can have, you know, with distressing, getting fine finishes, getting modern look, getting antique look, and these paints allow it. I don't buy different color palettes. I buy white and I make my own shades with that little tinted bottles. And I buy those little jars in which I have already got like certain set of paints in that, stored in that. So yeah. So when you say difficulties as a woman entrepreneur in India, I would start this with difficulties as a woman woodworker, which now over time has turned for the better, because earlier when I used to, I had little knowledge. I was hesitant in entering these sawmills, especially because I didn't know how to identify wood. What is the right kind of wood, and I'm always suspicious of people generally that ये तो मुझे कुछ ही चिपका रहा है, you know, like it's not something that is right for me, and on top of that I'm hesitant, but then and I'm also using smaller quantities, right? And sawmills and hardware stores are usually seeing men in the space, and first of all they were like, what is this girl going to do? You know, and I used to be the last person jumping in the line, like, look at me, I'm here in a shop, you know, like I'm trying to buy something too, please, like, help me out. I know I don't know much about it, but can you please help me out, you know? But now, so those were a few difficulties that I faced, and I've also been cheated couple of times when I don't know the price of things, and I've been cheated when I was buying wood in terms of quantity, in terms of price, and these are some of the difficulties which I don't know if women face it, maybe even beginner woodworkers, anybody would face it, but I guess being a woman they just give you less attention sometimes. But nowadays when I know my stuff, I enter the space more confidently, and I ask what I want, and I tell them 20 other things that, you know, this is what goes with what, and this is how you should, things like that. They are actually fascinated, and that helps me, you know, madam aap carpenter hai, aap kaise karenge, you know, all of that, and I'm like, hai main karte hai. You know, it's like it's actually been a boon. Now I get more attention because I'm like the creature they've never seen who's entering the shop. And so yes, there were difficulties at first. As an entrepreneur, I would say I wish I could give more time to this than I already do, because I also have certain responsibilities at home. I and my husband live together. It's no parents. There's enough support from him, but as a woman I still have certain responsibilities in the house that I need to look after, and sometimes that takes my time away from the workshop. So managing a business which has not scaled enough, I'm trying to like take it from ground up, and at the same time having a house and all of that adds to all that difficulty, you know. But otherwise I think it's a good space. It's an interesting space. It's both pros and cons. So I would like to focus on the pros more. and that's what I'm doing. It's been fun. The first thing I started doing was getting a order for a cat tree, and as I go forward, I feel yes, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that I keep enjoying. Like when I was making cat trees, I got bored of it very soon because it had to be covered in fabric. There was no exploration. It was plywood. I wasn't using other kinds of wood, and it became monotonous. But as a business, it was doing well. I still chose not to do it because it wasn't helping me to grow as a woodworker. Then I also recently completed a bigger project, where then I was doing one table, two chairs, one coffee table, and individual projects like that. I did not take a big one. Then I got an opportunity to furnish an entire studio apartment, for which we made like a queen bed, dining table, a study table, a wardrobe, everything that a person needs to stay. It tired the hell out of me. It's a huge laborious task, and at the same time I feel that I can't do this alone. My husband helped me with it, even though both of us, and another friend was also over, he was staying with us at that time. Even though all of us put our 100%, it was still really tiring. So now I'm like, can I do this? Can I sustain this? Physically, I'm like really tired by the end of it. Maybe hire a person to help me with prepping. So I'm still in the mode of figuring out what exactly I want to do. I'm also enjoying the response I'm getting from my Instagram page, where I have more smaller things, because I can't ship them. I have like really small products, jewelry hangers, and a little what would you say, little artwork somewhere, custom nameplates, and very crafty small things. I like doing that. I enjoy doing it, but at the same time I need to go and look for clients every time I want to make that one object, even if it's a stool or something. I would like bigger projects, but I need to still figure out how I can sustain myself and the business together. I have so many things in mind, honestly, to tell you the fact, but from here I see myself in a place where I have found enough time to actually have a holistic practice out of this, where I'm not just focusing on making projects in a deadline after deadline after deadline, but actually giving time to learn newer things with wood. I am to also integrate other art forms with it. Like for example, I did a table, recycled a table actually using mosaic and tile mosaic, and I really enjoyed the process of doing that. So how do glass and wood come together? How do metal and wood come together? And integrating all of these things into my practice, and at the same time scaling it up to a place where I'm not just doing furniture, but actually looking at the space as a whole, having an architecture or an interior design practice where wood is primary, yes, but at the same time there are other things that come along. Secondly, what I would like to do is to be able to teach this. Yes, having someone in the workshop, inviting people to the workshop and teaching them hands-on work, but at the same time, like for example, through my little blog, where whenever I find time, I have written smaller articles, because I found it so difficult to navigate this space in India, where you don't have a Home Depot where you can just walk into, pick up your tools. There are no bloggers on YouTube that are telling about the Indian market. There are few. Indraneel, I was so happy to find Indraneel's blog. So in the same way, if someone is struggling to find their steps into this, I want to be able to, through a simple Google search, tell them, okay, this is how you do this in India. This is where you probably find some of the tools online. In a particular city like Delhi, where do you go? Which shops do you go? If you're using paint, if you want to say paint something, you're confused as to which paint to use. Maybe smaller articles like that they can just take a starting point and then go from there. I would really be happy if I can be a part in their journey to woodworking. And I've started doing it. I wish I find more time to do it, and that's why this whole crazy project after project is something I don't want to be doing in the future. I want to take good projects I enjoy, which also give me time to explore and teach. So this is where I think I see I want to be, you know, in a couple of years down the line. Yeah. I would first of all change my attitude towards patience. You have to be really patient. You have to do it not in a hurry, carefully, and also don't take shortcuts. They come and they'll bite you in the back, and it hurts when you hear from clients, when your own projects fail. Secondly, always test your work and then give it forward. You know, I have not done that before because, like I said, I started getting work almost immediately, and I did not give it time for me to explore. And woodworking is not easy. There is structures involved, there is a lot of steps involved, and if you do that right, your product will, you know, speak for it. What you've made will speak for it. So definitely be persistent, keep doing it. Even if you're scared to start, just buy. It's not a very investment intensive activity as such if you're using hand tools, you know. Buy that little hammer, 2 chisels, a saw, little, you know, small, gather a few things, watch others, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're stuck somewhere, there are plenty of Indian woodworkers out there on Instagram right now, which you can look for, and they will answer. Believe me, you ask them the question, they will answer, because they are also eager to sort of, you know, connect with more people. Don't hesitate, ask, keep doing it. Don't sit and say where to start from. Build it. It's okay. It will break. You will build a better one, you know. This is learned only when you make. That's it. You can't attend a class. Just make it. I think that's about it.
Yeah, so tell us about your t-shirt.
This is me. This is my husband gave it to me on my 33rd birthday right now in January, and it was a big surprise. He is an artist, like I already said, and he's drawn my avatar, which he's named Sauce Supreme.
So what?
Sauce Stress Supreme.
Sauce Stress
Supreme,
Nice.
yes. All powerful and mighty. With my uniform, this is my apron and my mask and my chashma, and, you know, like all powerful, creator like, going bam onto things. I like it. It's nice.
It's pretty cool.
This is my woodworker avatar.